Hello and welcome to Strugglesville, Population 4. Haley O'Shaughnessy, Justin Verrier, Kevin O'Connor. I'm Chris Ryan. We are here for the Ringer NBA after party, and nobody's celebrating in Cleveland. Wah, wah.
Nobody's really going to celebrate in San Antonio either.
Well, that's because all they do is win, man.
Right.
It's just like another night for San Antonio, another night for Greg Popovich. We've got the Cleveland Cavaliers cratering in front of our very eyes. So that's what we're talking about. We're not really even talking about the fact that a Spurs team without Kawhi Leonard, Manu Ginobili, or Pau Gasol,
unbelievable,
kind of just like why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself to the Cavs all night? We're really talking about this Cavs team, which it just keeps getting worse. Justin, the Cavs crisis has been what everybody's talking about this week. We had a team meeting leak out over the last 48 hours that the Cavs had a team meeting to discuss Kevin Love's mystery illness during the Thunder game, in which he started the game, didn't feel well, and was just like, I'm out.
After 3 minutes.
Do you think it's actually because he's sick of this? He's sick of LeBron?
There he is.
Am I right? No, I mean, I think it ultimately just comes down to, I guess, Dan Gilbert isn't the guy you want running your organization when your GM, you didn't pay him properly over the summer.
Right.
Because all of the guys they brought in to fix what was happening last year just have been worse than what they had previously.
Yeah, this is what we get to, and we have a Ringer poll going right now. What is the biggest issue facing the Cavaliers this season? Is it roster, ego, or coaching?
Roster.
And roster is winning this poll. Mm-hmm. But Kevin, what we just saw tonight is an example of the difference between the two organizations. It's Greg Popovich playing young guys that a lot of NBA fans hadn't even heard of before, like Joffrey Laverne or Davis Bertans contributing. Got DeJounte Murray continuing to develop. Kyle Anderson continuing to develop. Those guys D'ing up LeBron at the end of the game. Mm-hmm. They just run their stuff, share the ball. Everybody is playing at their peak potential. And then you got the Cavs, and you're just seeing a bunch of guys standing around. You're seeing lineups that don't make any sense. You're seeing players not working for each other. So let me ask you, is this a question of personnel or coaching when it comes to the Cavs?
It's personnel. I mean, Greg Popovich wouldn't be able to fix this Cavaliers team.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. I mean, it's personnel-related issues. They don't have a single consistent plus defender on their team. I mean, even tonight, granted, they still had effort issues. Their effort was better, and they still allowed 116 points per possession according to Cleaning the Glass tonight against the Spurs. It's personnel because of the fact that they're old.
Yeah.
They're slow,
yeah.
And that's why they need personnel changes. The problem is they don't necessarily have the pieces to get that done. And that's why a team like the Spurs, they've integrated young players to develop. A team like the Raptors has done that with Norman Powell and now OG Anunoby. Developing young guys while competing games is the best way to build a sustainable winner. And the Cavaliers had to think short term in order to win the title. But right now, I mean, they're just old and slow.
Hashtag Ringer NBA if you want to commiserate about the collapse of the Cavs. But Haley... we've been here before. It's like every January, something dark and terrible happens to the Cavs. You know, we have a bunch of team meetings. There's is Kevin Love fitting in or fitting out?
First of all, it's always Kevin Love.
Yeah.
Whether it's Instagram, now it's escalated to being a meeting.
Is it always Kevin Love because Kevin Love is actually a problem, or is it always Kevin Love because Kevin Love is a convenient scapegoat?
It's the latter, 100%. Because yes, he's not great at defense. And maybe that's some of what they were going to call him out with and what they were frustrated in the meeting. But we heard that it was Isaiah Thomas who was initiating him, calling him out. And Isaiah can't play defense. So I think it's just very easy
Isaiah can't really play offense right now either.
I know. It's very sad to see.
Yeah, but why is he out there? That's a question about who's calling the shots on this team if Isaiah Thomas is out
but
there.
But who are they going to put out there? I mean, Derrick Rose was out there.
Jose Calderon.
Oh, yeah, Jose. It's these very old.
The thing is,
we're talking about a LeBron James team. You can put a lot of different crappy pieces out there and have them look good.
Look, it's unfair to expect a guy who missed 7 months with a major hip injury, it's probably more serious than it's been let on, to be the same guy he was last season, that he was with the Kings, that he was even with a short stint with the Suns. It's going to take him a while as an elite athlete to get back to that. But the problem is he might not. Right now, he looks no more than maybe 50% of last season. He's not even close. And to what level he reaches by April or May, and maybe if they were to make it to June, which right now, I don't know. He's far, far away, and they need him to be at least 85%, I think.
Right, and it's sad because, he's pushing because he wants to contribute to this team, but also because he needs to showcase himself.
Because he needs a contract.
Or else what's he going to do next year?
He wants the Brinks truck.
Right. So
It's not coming.
It's sad for him.
Bill Simmons tweeting on Twitter, of all places. It's painful to watch Isaiah. Doesn't seem like he should be playing, no legs, and J.R. Smith's career has looked over for this entire season. Parentheses, not sure if it is or isn't. That's just how it looks. Bill also tweeted, the Cavs collapse is jaw-dropping. It almost seems like Ty Lue is trying to get fired with these lineups. Justin, trade deadline's coming up February 8th, I believe it is. Who is more likely to still be on the Cavs, Kevin Love or Ty Lue as the coach?
Ooh, that's tough. I would say Kevin Love, just because I don't know how you trade him and get kind of a front-level player back on that team.
Kevin Love is also one of the major assets that they could have to play with were LeBron to walk next season, or even if LeBron were to stay, right?
And I would say their biggest issue, like you were saying before, is like, yeah, LeBron can make the most of his crappy situation, but he can't do it when pretty much the entire team is like that for an extended period of time. It seemed like they were able to go on that run just because LeBron did everything.
Yeah.
But now with Isaiah back and not Kyrie, you're asking him to be everything on offense and everything on defense, and just he can't do that.
Yeah, he played 38 minutes tonight. The next highest player was Jay Crowder at 32. You're still playing LeBron James 38 minutes on a Tuesday in January.
Kevin's favorite player, Jay Crowder.
Yeah, exactly. There was a really interesting.
Tonight,
Yeah, yeah.
There are two plays tonight that really jumped out at me watching tonight. There was one that was just a really basic free throw in the second quarter where Kyle Anderson, who is not known for his motor, I don't think, got a rebound.
His nickname in college was Slow-Mo.
There you go. And he
got
got
a went away.
rebound over Kevin Love off of a missed free throw by a Spurs player. It's like an offensive free throw rebound. And then there was another play, I think in the beginning of the fourth quarter, where Kevin Love fell down underneath the Cavs hoop. And as the ball was going back up the court, you could just see Jay Crowder step over Kevin Love to pick the ball up to inbound it, and nobody else come over to help Kevin Love up. And then Love kind of like rubbing his hand for a while. Again, like his ailments not necessarily being the thing that, is pulling the team together. But my question is just like we've heard about this George Hill trade coming for Channing Frye and Amon Shumpert. It's apparently on the 1 yard line, according to reports. Is George Hill really going to fix things here?
I mean, I think he'd help, but at the same time, is he going to help enough? And I think George Hill is a guy who's shot over 40% on catch and shoot threes like the last 4 or 5 years, according to NBA.com. And his defense is very good. But the fact is that you need more than just one guard defender. Yeah. You also need a versatile forward. You also need a defensive center. So it's like Hill isn't going to solve all your problems. He can only help a little bit.
He won't, but if you look at them right now, they have so little.
Yeah,
so it's like it's so worth it to get him and get some perimeter defense and have another spot up shooter, because right now, JR is not consistent. Even Kevin Love, he went through that great stretch and we were like, oh my God, he's going like 7 for 7 from the three, but then the next night he'd go like 0 from 7.
Yeah.
So they need some consistency.
And he's Isaiah Thomas insurance. We just talked about where Isaiah is now. If he doesn't get back, then you at least have George Hill as insurance in the event that you can't play Isaiah in the playoffs.
Do you think that if you take Danny Ainge's floorboards out, there is a sign of the devil underneath of it? Because how did he offload Fultz onto the Sixers and then get this Kyrie for Isaiah and Crowder trade and send these two honestly dud players?
Two things. Brian Colangelo is terrible. He hasn't made a good move this entire time. And Dan Gilbert, as I said before, was running the team.
Right.
And then you bring in this guy who looks like he's 25 to run the team after David Griffin goes out of there. Both of these deals were just kind of taking candy from a baby.
The thing is, with that deal, the Kyrie deal, that was for the Nets pick more than anything else.
Yeah.
And then Jay Crowder, and then maybe Isaiah Thomas is the third most valuable asset that they got back.
Which really,
he was only an add-in, if anything else.
It really goes back to the how weird this roster is constructed. You're walking the line between a LeBron team versus playing for the future. And yes, you could blame that on LeBron, but instead of going out and just getting LeBron's friends to come and fill out the roster, Derrick Rose, some of these other guys, how about you take a chance on a guy in Europe or someone else? Do some actual work in order to build these guys into something.
Have a scouting network, have a culture, have a system that you're trying to bring people in, not just names that. It's almost the Doc Rivers policy of I used to play with this guy, or this guy was good against me a couple of years ago. We've heard a couple of other names attached to the Cavs. DeAndre Jordan. Mm-hmm. Helps them, hurts them. What is DeAndre worth to them?
That would help them. So then Kevin goes back to the 4. I'm not a fan of Tristan, but also.
So the rumor was Tristan and I think the Cavs pick, right?
Maybe,
for DeAndre.
maybe the Brooklyn pick is involved.
Yeah, you'd have to give up something because Tristan's contract is not great.
Right.
DeAndre's won't be great this summer, though, depending on what he gets paid.
And that's the darkest timeline is like these guys, they make
Yeah.
all these deals for players who can all abandon them at the summer, and then they have nothing and no Brooklyn pick.
And Kevin's made the point in his article today just that DeAndre hasn't even been good against the Warriors. And if you're really kind of targeting what the ultimate goal is, that's what you want.
For sure.
I'm looking at their schedule right now. It's like they need to win some games, like
Sure.
really badly.
Yeah.
They go to Detroit. They have Brooklyn, Charlotte at home. They go to Philly. They go to Miami. They have Miami at home, and then they go to Atlanta. There's some victories in there. There better be, or like Ty Lue's out of a job for sure, right? Like you can't lose in Atlanta and then just be like, yeah, we're serious contenders for the finals. I wanted to talk a little bit about the other team that was playing today because I feel like, as usual, we're ignoring the Spurs. The Spurs were in the news for a very un-Spurs reason today.
I think it's even more un-Kawhi-like than it's un-Spurs-like.
Yeah.
He's the least. It's like drama's not even in. You would never put that in his vocabulary.
Give me, on a rating of 1 to 10, how much you buy Kawhi Leonard is unhappy in the Spurs.
I don't know, because there are a lot of reports with it. Obviously, you're going to be unhappy anytime you're sidelined. But I think the interesting thing is if it was like a misdiagnosis thing, if the Spurs misdiagnosed his injury and that's why it's prolonged, sure, I could definitely see that he'd be unhappy. But the other rumor was that he's not pleased with the people he's brought in. They're not drawing elite talent. But, I mean, LaMarcus is a lot better this year. I don't know. Pop seems like he can draw people
They're
in.
also really good without Kawhi Leonard.
Right.
Like,
so,
Kawhi is the elite level talent.
Right. So I don't know if surrounding cast is really as much of an issue.
The third in the West. Like, what are we doing?
Jason Concepcion tweeted earlier, Kawhi Leonard being the Pop problem child is a red wedding level plot twist.
Except, like, it probably really isn't that severe.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, Pop shot this down predictably. We did a whole, like, what if Kawhi actually was on the trade block? Like, what could he get on the open market? I thought it was actually a really fun post. Those posts can be a little challenging because you're trying to think, like, would this actually happen? And almost the fact that it would never happen made it more fun to do. So, like, I had one that involved Jokic. Justin, what was yours?
Orlando Magic, Aaron Gordon.
That's right, yeah.
The new Kawhi.
The new Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
That would be a great challenge for Pop. I don't know. I think that we're so unused to this idea of any kind of palace intrigue happening with San Antonio that we were inevitably looking for something. But there was a couple of reports where it was like, even if it wasn't Kawhi definitely wants out of San Antonio, it was things like Kawhi's team is happy with the Spurs, like language that you just don't usually associate with Kawhi.
Yeah, I mean, you never would have associated Kawhi's, team, his circus around him. That's what you associate with LeBron, the LeBron circus. But I guess Kawhi has a team too. He's a superstar.
Yeah,
but
he's got his own trainers. TB12, baby.
When has San Antonio ever had a player like that? Like, to Kawhi's level where he's a frontline superstar, he's a Jordan Brand athlete, he's out there on these ridiculous commercials that aren't funny.
Right.
Like, he's new to their whole environment to a certain extent, even though they really kind of built Kawhi like
He's
themselves.
kind of a low-key frail star. Like, I think he's
High
incredible.
key. I don't know why we act like he's not. Remember, like it was like actually when he got re-injured, we pointed out that he's missed more games in his career than Anthony Davis.
Right, but it's just every time Anthony Davis gets hurt, we're like, oh my God.
Higher percentage.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. And Anthony Davis we make such an issue about, and that's like one of his main concerns.
Yeah.
But with Kawhi, it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I think we all probably think this is fake news, but
it is. I mean, maybe he's unhappy they haven't been able to bring in a star, but guess what? They've drafted well. DeJounte Murray looks terrific in his second year. They have the ability to create cap space in the next couple seasons. The ability is there to bring somebody in.
I think what it is really is that we have trade deadline fever. Can you feel it?
Yeah, and also how fun would it be if Kawhi got angry in public? Or if he said something like shady in public.
Yeah, what if Kawhi was like, trade me right after now? That would be incredible.
Does Kawhi even have an
sweater,
Instagram?
so.
What if he got on Instagram and started being like LeBron-esque?
I hope
that would be
Does
fun
Kawhi
for me.
have a burner account?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, that would be
No.
amazing.
You need one to like all the girls' photos. This is how this works, guys.
All right, let's talk generally about this trade deadline. I think that we had been hearing, by all accounts, it was going to be pretty quiet. It sounds like the Cavs are open for business, possibly even for a new coach. I'm not sure whether or not you could see the Cavs saying, like, look, without any assurances from LeBron, we're not going to make any aggressive moves that would compromise our future. But the Cavs are liable to be a player. The Wizards are the other Eastern Conference team that's been having a very good, no bad week. So we've had another team meeting in which Bradley Beal was like, it was pretty pointless. And John Wall was like, I think those team meetings are useful if you look at them the right way. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about some trades that we've been getting from our readers and listeners. First one involving the Wizards, and this is one that I think is a fever dream, but still acceptable.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say if it doesn't involve a big, it's a waste of time.
Well, Kenny L. Chapman on Twitter
Kenny.
agrees with it. If you have any of these, hit us up at #RingerNBA. The Wizards get Boogie and Ashik. The Pelicans get Otto and Oubre.
No, if you're the Pelicans.
No, because
Boogie's one of the best big men in basketball,
Yeah,
and Otto
Boogie
Porter
is.
is not one of the best
Boogie
forwards in basketball.
tells you he's not re-signing.
Well, I mean, then that's a completely different story. Then I think you're looking for what you can get, but then again, maybe you're going to get less, knowing that you have less leverage.
Yes.
But I think Otto Porter would be a fair return if he's like, yeah, I'm gone. See you later.
We were hot for this idea going into the season, assuming that the Pelicans thing wasn't going to work. Boogie has just been really good, and he's worked really well with AD. I think the problem is going forward, the tax implications. The Pelicans are right up against the tax, and all the reports say that they're going to re-sign him, but they're going to be able to do nothing to fill up that roster. And I think they're going to come and hit the hard wall that Hawksian, like early aughts, like, oh, we're good, but not good enough. What do we do here?
There's like volatility because you got these guys being really emotional, obviously, and then there's like just the outrageous numbers that Boogie and Anthony Davis put up on a nightly basis, but there is also a very hard ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is that with all these contracts, the Wizards are in the same spot.
Yeah.
So in almost every deal where they're going to really shake things up to matter in the Eastern Conference, they've got to get rid of Otto Porter.
I was having a hard time reading the Wizards' tea leaves today.
First of all, you said that John Wall was like, oh, this meeting's okay. First of all, he called out the front office. He was like, upstairs, they've got to do something too. Second of all, I think he also, in his quote, he was kind of like, yeah, not everybody got to speak. It wasn't.
But
we
John
weren't
Wall
respecting
got
each
to
other.
speak, right?
Yeah, so John Wall got to speak, but Gortatkin didn't get to speak. I'm sure.
Polish Hammer didn't get to speak.
Yeah. So and also Otto Porter is reportedly not the one who gets along with everyone.
Huh.
Oh. That was what the tweets were saying today.
Be really happy in New Orleans then. Okay, Peter Anchetta has a crazy three-way. Spurs get Kevin Love, Isaiah Thomas, and Cedi Osman, and the Brooklyn pick, and the Cavs. It's a straight swap. And the Cavs would get Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green. That would just never happen. I don't think that.
Spurs hanging up the phone.
Spurs. I don't think Pop sees the area code and is just like, no. Cody Nolan, he calls this one "Get LeBron to LA." The Spurs, Spurs coming up a lot. Spurs get Jordan Clarkson and Brandon Ingram. The Lakers get Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And the Thunder get KCP and Julius Randle. So that's a good way to get the Thunder back to Seattle.
Yeah.
I think.
You're giving the Thunder 2 free agents, too?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's a mess.
Expert Frowner, you can hit us with more of these #RingerNBA. The Spurs get Chris Middleton, Rashad Vaughn, and 2 Milwaukee picks, and the Bucks get Kawhi Leonard. That's like not reasonable, but I just think that Kawhi Leonard's not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere.
When was the last time the Spurs made any trades at the deadline, let alone like a blockbuster?
Oh, I mean, when have the Spurs ever made a blockbuster?
Right.
We were talking about this before, like during the game. When have the Spurs had a bad contract on their books?
I said LaMarcus appeared to be one last year when it wasn't working out, but clearly it's ironed itself out as it always does. So
I almost feel like because he only makes $18 a year, it's hard to even get. You can get actually a big haul for Kawhi. I can't believe we're talking this much about Kawhi Leonard being traded, but I just think you could get like a huge haul for him because his contract is actually relatively movable in this NBA.
He's not being traded.
Yeah.
Though.
All right, we have some other questions and comments from Twitter. We've got Paolo, our buddy. Talk about Thunder Nets instead. But brother, we were watching Kyle Anderson go full slow-mo. Did the Thunder win?
Yeah.
Great.
Ultimately.
Best worst John says, is Chauncey Billups a genius for not taking the Cavs job?
Oof. Mm-hmm.
A lot of the blame, it's like, okay, your first head coaching job, and then all of a sudden you're the worst coach ever.
Also, he's the only one holding that booth together because Paul Pierce is terrible at that. You guys need another guy out there.
We have a couple more dark side boots. What exactly is the point from the Cavs' point of view in a George Hill trade? What's the best case result? We talked about this a little bit, but I think this is just at this point now, this is part of the problem where the Cavs are coming from. They have no leverage.
Like, why would the Cavs want George Hill?
Yeah, because they're just trying to plug up the holes in the boat at this point, right?
Yeah, but here's what it comes down to. Are you, as a franchise, looking to win this year? Because maybe LeBron is gone. Do you want another championship? Or do you want to be like, look, worst case scenario, this is what we're going to be left with?
So worst case scenario.
Then think about the future, and winning now would be great, but it's obviously not the most important thing to them.
Well, this becomes a conversation then about what do the Cavs actually need to show LeBron James to keep him.
Right.
Then.
It seems like Hill is a good half measure.
Yeah.
Right? If you only give up, let's say, their first-round pick, not the Brooklyn pick,
yeah,
like it's probably going to be somewhere in the low 20s anyway. Like that's fine to get rid of. Like just get someone there to appease LeBron so you don't lose him long term, but at the same time, you're showing him.
I almost wonder, like you mentioned, like what do the Cavs have to show LeBron?
Yeah.
I wonder if it's almost more what do other teams need to show LeBron that's better than what Cleveland can offer. Do you know what I mean? Like LeBron could just re-up for another year if there's nothing out there and wait for something better if he wants. So he can re-up for 2 more years if he wants to.
So let me put you on the spot. Give me, this is not a like I'm hearing or this is going to happen, but give me 3 or 4 teams that are in the LeBron sweepstakes.
I mean, I still think the Lakers are an appealing team. I know everybody's talking about their dysfunction, but at the same time, I look at that roster with a mix of youth, the ability to add another veteran, whether it's Boogie or Paul George, alongside
there's no
LeBron.
player who's more aware of the own narrative surrounding his career.
Sure. I mean,
LeBron going to the Lakers. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, obviously,
it's like the Cavs. Before they got LeBron the second time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you have the Lakers. Who else? Who
Philly.
else is in the mix? Philly,
for sure.
Philly would make sense on paper for the same reason that the Lakers do, the mixture of youth and the ability to add veterans. And then obviously Houston makes sense on paper. San Antonio makes sense. There's a handful of teams out there. The question is, can those teams position themselves to make themselves appealing?
I think also the
LeBron?
thing we should keep an eye out on is if the Warriors go 15-1, 16-0 through these playoffs, something like that. That changes it. We talked last year when Chris Paul went to the Rockets, Daryl Morey was talking about raising the risk profile and the Warriors forced us to take a gamble. If the Warriors again do this to the league, maybe LeBron does go someplace like San Antonio or Houston where it's not necessarily the narrative about like him saving a franchise or I'm coming home. It's, look, I'm teaming up with James Harden and Chris Paul because there needs to be, we have to concentrate our abilities to be able to beat this Warriors team.
I was talking to Riley about this the other day. I'm not completely sure that LeBron James would do that, would go to Houston.
So he'd rather lose nobly?
Well, no, I don't think lose nobly, but I think that he would pick someone who makes sense, but isn't necessarily, I don't think he'd pull a KD, basically. And you could argue that, yeah, that's what he did in Miami, but that's nowhere close to what the Warriors have done.
So would he go to San Antonio?
I'm not sure if he...
Arguably, like, as small or smaller market than Cleveland?
Only one superstar there.
Right.
You know, it's not 3 like there was with Golden State, right?
Right.
And the difference with Miami...
They just trashed his team today. Like, you could say anything you want about a superstar, but that's a team that, like, if LeBron plays...
But that's a team that's not going to win. They're not going to win it all.
I think the
Houston could win it all.
The other thing with San Antonio is LeBron, if he's shown anything over the past few years, is he wants control more than just like success. He obviously wants that. He wants to be the best player ever, all that. But he wants to have a say in personnel. He wants to have a say in the business ops. He wants the team itself to prove that they are worthy of him.
Right.
And I don't think he ever gets that in San Antonio just because the structure is the whole thing.
And we've already heard
Even
Pelinka
Houston.
kind of flirting with Rich Paul a little bit, with LeBron's agent.
If LeBron went to the Spurs this summer and said, you got to get rid of Pop and R.C. Buford if you want me, would they do it?
No.
No.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so.
either.
Like LeBron's got like 5 more years. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to do that?
Yeah, I think a lot of teams would get rid of their GM and their coach, but the Spurs are one team that wouldn't.
Yeah, think about the league's most temporary coaches. The Lakers are definitely in there. We're not sure about that.
Yeah.
Fizdale should wait for that.
I think that the Doc regime at Clippers is vulnerable because you've got Jerry West there. You've got a sort of feeling like they're transitioning.
But now they have reportedly they have a good relationship.
I'm sure they do.
Doc and
but
West.
what are the Clippers going to do? Are the Clippers rebuilding and tearing it all down?
The Clippers don't know.
I'm
sorry,
Houston,
Isaac Lee. The Clippers do.
So you think D'Antoni?
I think Houston makes the most sense there simply because if LeBron is anything, like he's a master at managing his own message these days. Ever since the decision, Bill has talked about it. He has a guy that's actually just out there doing that for him. I think he's laying the groundwork, maybe not intentionally, but maybe on the side to say, look, this team isn't there for me. I need to go and join a super team in order to compete with the Warriors.
Speaking of what the Cavs have to do for this rest of the season to impress LeBron or do whatever, and we've been talking about Ty Lue and the heat on his seat. Rachel Nichols on Twitter says after the loss of the Spurs, Cavs coach Ty Lue says he is going to be making a lineup change. I would have to imagine that's Tristan in for Kevin Love.
Sure.
Or
Yeah, because everything else has been so flip-floppy already.
or starting Derrick Rose instead of Isaiah Thomas. I mean, what are the two choices here?
I mean, maybe the best role for Isaiah now is to come off the bench.
Or is it JR?
It's good.
I mean, the fact is that we're throwing darts right here because there's so many things that it could be, which is
Right,
part
and
of
their
the problem,
minutes are
right?
already pretty interchangeable.
Well, that's a good question. If George Hill comes in, does that mean Isaiah's to the bench, regardless?
I mean, I think maybe that's the next phase of Isaiah's career, goes back to being like a star
six-man
six-man.
spark plug.
If he can get back to close to the same athletic level, maybe that's the best role for him in the future. Which is sad to say. I mean, he had one of the best, highest volume scoring seasons ever last season. It was remarkable to watch, and now he's just half of what he was. It's sad.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ty Lue is this is the Alamo now, so he's got to start making some like pretty aggressive calls to show why he should stay in this job. I mean, I don't think that there's not an obvious person to come in and change what the Cavs are, and there's not an obvious person who would come in and steady the ship. But you wouldn't have said that about Ty Lue when he replaced David Blatt a couple years ago, and who knows? Maybe it's just this is the kind of thing that you need to shake them up. I'm not advocating for it, but we already know that LeBron has a lot of affection for David Fizdale. There were rumors about Fizdale going to the Lakers as part of a LeBron sales pitch. Who knows? All right, guys, let's get out of this talk and we'll get into this analog DIY trade machine that we have here. So, just as a fun exercise, and this is Haley's favorite thing to do, is to come up with fake trades. So we got these two boxes, right? One is players, one is teams. It's very simple. You just pick a player, you pick a team, and you try to work out a trade to get the player to that team. We're gonna go first with Justin. Oof. One green, one yellow. So just read out the player you got there. Play along at home.
I have DeMarcus Cousins. New Orleans own.
Nice. Hashtag Rigor NBA. Where is Boogie going?
All right, this one's folded multiple times. Well done. The Cleveland Cavaliers.
All right.
How appropriate.
I'm pulling these guys up on the trade machine here.
This one's tough simply because I don't know how the Pelicans maintain a win-now approach with whatever the Cavs are going to send there. The Brooklyn pick would have to be involved. I don't know what else to make the salaries match. Maybe Tristan. Maybe they can reroute George Hill.
You start with Love in the Brooklyn pick, right?
Oh, Love, absolutely. Love, I think, actually makes a little bit more sense than Boogie, even. I think Love is a worse player. Not worse, but just not as good as DeMarcus Cousins. But I just don't know if Anthony Davis, a Kentucky guy, would want to get rid of Boogie and trade him in for Love. But I think you have Love in the Brooklyn pick going forward. That's going to help because, like we were talking about before, the Pelicans long-term are going to have trouble kind of filling out their wings, which has really been their huge issue the past 4 years.
They need a future.
Yeah, for sure.
They need future options.
I don't think the Pelicans do it, but if Boogie's like, look, it's not going to work here. I'm not going to spend 5 years of my career banging my head against the wall here. And I'm not sure if Anthony Davis is going to stay after, 2021 he can opt out?
I believe 2020.
2020?
I believe, yeah.
Toss the Cavs back in the box here, and we'll try another one here with Kevin.
That is still such a long time.
Yeah.
Poor Anthony Davis.
Here we go.
We'll
Kevin.
hear about it every day.
The DIY trade machine, Picasso.
Paul George.
Paul George to...
Cleveland Cavaliers again.
Okay.
That's a boring one.
All right, let's try a different one.
I still think he would be the guy to target, though. I still think
They
he
had
makes the
their
most
chance,
sense.
man. I mean,
know.
The
yeah.
Portland Trailblazers.
Oh,
that's an
interesting. So
one.
Portland was like an uncover, out of all the crazy stories we have with the Cavs and this weird Kawhi stuff today, the fact that it was reported, I think it was Chris Haynes on ESPN reported, that Damian Lillard last week requested a meeting with Portland Trailblazers owner Paul Allen, one of the richest people in the world. And what was on Damian Lillard's mind?
Will Barton.
Yeah.
That trade got orchestrated
If you get
4
5
years
minutes
ago.
with a rich man, you got to ask about Will Barton. He says no. Apparently, he's mad that Will Barton was traded. He wanted to reaffirm his commitment to the franchise, but also just check in on the direction. Just be like, what's going on? Let's get Paul George to the Blazers.
There's not a lot there, you know. I mean, what are the scenarios where Oklahoma City would trade Paul George? Let's say he says I'm leaving this summer.
Right.
The scenario would be that teams would trade for him knowing that he's only going to be a rental.
Right.
Because Portland would trade for him knowing that we only have him for a couple months. So if you're Oklahoma City, what you're getting back isn't going to be much.
Right.
If you're Portland, you're probably getting him for a little bit of a bargain, but for more than what everybody else is getting him for a bargain. So I don't think it would be Lillard. I don't think McCollum. I don't think Turner, because they're not taking salary back, or maybe if you're Oklahoma City, you do want a filler back. I don't really know what's there besides Nurkic. Zach Collins.
I think it has to be CJ or nothing else.
Not if he's a rental.
Not if he's a rental.
But that works salary-wise. So let's just say in a perfect world, you could get Paul George to agree to sign a 5-year deal or a 3-year deal, or whatever it is.
He wants to live in Portland.
That was what was kind of low-key interesting about Dame doing this, is because there had been, not rumblings necessarily out of Portland, but among basketball writers that the Blazers look better with CJ kind of running the team.
If I had to trade one of the two of them, I'd trade Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question. So Melo was a guy that the Blazers duo was openly pining for.
Yeah.
Would you trade anybody like maybe a Mo Harkless, maybe that type of guy, in order to take a chance on Melo now, considering that we know that he's really bad?
Well, here, I would say this. I would say if I was Presti,
committed to a bit,
unless Paul George was like, you should get what you can for me right now, I would not do anything, because so much of, his reputation is his reputation. It's pretty solid despite losing 2 MVP caliber players over the years. But he was able to pull this team out of nowhere. Like,
sure.
It's just like absolutely out of nothing he got this team together. I don't know that he would want to trade Melo like for the spare parts in Portland.
I'd like to point out that Victor Oladipo is an all-star and Paul George is not.
Ooh.
Wow.
should be an all-star.
That is really good.
That.
That is a really good point. I would say that it's much harder to be an all-star in the West than it is the East.
Yeah.
All right.
I know, but it's a good point.
All right, fine. That's all I want to say.
I
And
ask you-
Cantor also thriving.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. That is true. I have a question
He
for
is.
you, though. The Portland Trail Blazers 3 years ago had all these like interesting guys. Guys like Vonleh.
Yeah.
Guys like, I don't know.
Allen.
Yeah. Where you're like, ooh, what's this? Like, you could put all these guys together and make a... Did they miss their window to make a trade for a star? And now these guys are depreciating assets, and you're just like, what am I going to do with Myers Leonard?
I think they
on
missed their
3-year
chance
deals?
when they signed Evan Turner, when they signed these guys to big money deals, when
Yeah.
they just loaded up their cap space, took away all their flexibility moving forward. And that's why, if you're Dame Lillard, you're looking at the roster, you're pulling up the salary sheet, and you're like, well, what can we do?
Yeah.
What can we actually do as a team, you're saying? And not a lot. That's
Right.
why, like, with this Paul George trade, it's like there's nothing there.
Right.
If you're Oklahoma City, even if George is like, I'm leaving, see ya, there's nothing here. You'd rather just keep him for the rest of the season and say, you know what, 1 year, we'll go for it. Because there's nothing there for Portland to offer, which is true for a lot of teams. There's not much there.
Let's do one more trade with you. It's your big moment.
Me. All right. I've got the Clippers, my favorite team,
It's a good
All
one.
right.
and Lou Williams.
He's already on the Clippers.
Are
You know what? I can make this trade. All right. Here you pick.
I picked that one.
DeAndre Jordan.
All right.
I can make this trade. I can do this. I'll just take this one.
Okay.
Okay.
That's great.
Doc Rivers. No, I'm just kidding. All right, it's Kemba Walker.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for Kemba, Kemba's on a cheap contract.
Yep.
Relatively.
12
mil.
million, yeah.
Okay. So if you really want to shake it up, or not so much shake it up, but kind of do something that's safe for both teams, I think you get rid of Lou Williams or Milos. I'm not really sure why it's worth it for the Hornets, though. I'm
Right.
not sure why anything would be worth it. They don't really need DeAndre. They especially don't need his contract. They have Dwight. Dwight's been working out well for them. I don't think I'd do this trade.
I bet if you were the Clippers and you say that we're already invested in Blake, we already have a few other contracts on the books there. The Hornets want to dump a lot of dead salary. If you can get Kemba and Batum, for instance, I think that makes the Clippers pretty interesting. I don't know what you'd have to send out, but it would have to be maybe a pick or two.
Do they have? What's their future pick sort of situation?
I think they have them going forward now.
Awesome. I mean, how about Austin Rivers straight up?
Wow.
Ooh.
That would be what an end of the Doc
he's
Rivers
the
era.
most
know.
valuable player on the roster on
So
Doc's
if
side.
the Clippers want to be any better than they have been, let's say the last 2-3 years, wouldn't you want someone better than Kemba?
Well, I guess the argument is you've already invested in Blake, and that contract is going to be kind of an eyesore going forward.
Right. And it's going to depreciate as his body probably is
Sure.
not. He's not
Falls
going to get
apart.
healthier unless he decides to become a pure playmaking, point Blake kind of guy who's not attacking the rim anymore. Right.
Yeah, that's the fear with DeAndre. I mean,
Sure.
I don't know. He could get 30 million plus for the next 5 years, but the market might not be there for him to get that either. So maybe you end up getting him for less than a lot of people are expecting right now. So that'll be interesting to monitor.
To your point, Haley, what are the Clippers then? You know what I mean? I think that the Clippers should be looking to open up as much space as possible because it's just you just can't beat Los Angeles in terms of as a destination for other players.
Sure.
Isaac and I talk about this a lot because Isaac is a Clippers fan, and I say out of tough love, I don't want them to have anything to do with this team.
You don't want who to have
team,
any?
The Clippers. I don't think it's worked out. I really like their roster right now, but none of them are healthy at the same time.
Right.
And it doesn't look like Blake will consistently stay healthy ever in his career. So they've already invested in a contract that I consider a mistake, and I think that they should try to dump everything else that they can. Mainly, okay, so a lot of these guys like Lou, Milos, they're young, they're talented. Well, not young, but they're talented and they're cheap. But someone like DeAndre Jordan, you should get rid of for the future.
Right. I mean, the one good thing the Clippers have going for them is they're doing all the little things that they never did under Doc when he was running the front office. Guys like Tyrone Wallace, some of these other guys you've never heard of, Juwan Evans, like they're playing meaningful roles for a team that might make the playoffs.
Montrezl Harrell, another.
Montrezl Harrell.
Louisville guy.
Believe it or not, they have a front office now, and all of a sudden they have other guys besides a big three.
Can I throw a trade out to you guys just off the top of my dome right here?
Do it.
Sure.
Dragic, Ellington, and Winslow for Blake.
If I'm Miami, no.
Yeah, Miami wouldn't do that.
I don't
big name player. You don't think Pat Riley's like challenge accepted?
I don't want to be paying Blake $38 million in the 21-22 season.
Yeah, Miami
How many
already
more
has
times
paid out
can
so
Miami
much
miss
money.
on free agency though before they become Dallas of the Eastern Conference?
Miami doesn't have money for next free agency.
No,
they
but
spent it all this summer.
Right, but like
Because
Miami.
nobody came, so they were like, I guess we're gonna pay Dion.
Right, exactly.
Fine.
Blake's abs would be ripped there. That's the one thing we know that Miami does every single year.
What's the Miami improv comedy scene like?
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Kevin's like, I tell you, but then you know my stage name.
Give me, whether it's a premonition or actual, like, I think that this is going to happen, a player who will be traded in the next, couple weeks.
I think George Hill to Cavs is a done deal.
On the 1 year line.
DeAndre Jordan just seems it makes a lot of sense. Maybe to the Cavs, maybe to somebody else.
I'm counting on you, KFC.
George Hill is way too much smoke for that not to happen.
Give me one other one, man. Come on, blow my mind.
I think it's going to be a quiet deadline, Chris.
Just reach out there. Pull one out of the ether.
Markelle Fultz to the Celtics.
And then imagine he starts being able to shoot jumpers. How about... I think Justice Winslow's an intriguing trading chip if Miami were to get in there. I mean, you mentioned him, right? He's an intriguing player where he's a versatile forward who just hasn't been able to put it together offensively. He's someone where if I'm a team in need of trying to get a lower cost player who could end up being really good, Winslow's a guy I'd target. I don't know if Miami would.
You heard it here first. Kevin O'Connor says Justice Winslow is on the trade block.
All I know is Michael Jordan should have accepted those 4 first-round draft picks for the pick that he used on Kaminsky.
Looking a little bit bad now. All right, for Haley, for Justin, for Kevin, I'm Chris Ryan. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. It's been fun. We'll see you next time. This is NBA After Party.
Basketball is very good.